Okay, I am recording, I think now.
Okay, good. So we have David back, and
yeah,
it's not that the name of David has changed to David back. It's just David is again with us. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Namaste, everyone. Hello, Mark. Oh, it's so good to have Claudio. Claudio is bringing everyone from the waiting room into the class, right? That's good. Okay, so as Ramji says sometime, everything goes south. Does anybody understand why Ramji likes to say that everything goes south in Initya? Everything goes south because everything is subject to time, and time consumes everything. So having said that, my other laptop where I have all my ebooks went south yesterday. I have to take it somewhere to fix it. So I couldn't read the following chapter of the Vedanta, the big picture. So I suggest we go into a Q&A whatsoever questions regarding either Panchadas or the or the big picture of Swami Paramarthananda. How about that?
Are you open to talking about karma yoga in the big picture?
Anything, anything, but only Vedanta.
Can't hear Claudio.
We can't hear Claudio, we can't hear David, but David has not yet begun talking.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, good. So I say that for me, Panchadasi is it's enlightening. I don't know if it's a word that I can use. It's very interesting. I found this text so it's new ideas come to me, new understanding, and I want to talk a little bit about this always more or less the same thing that I ask. It's the non-experiencing the consciousness that is a not experiencing entity, and I understand that it's maybe it's more simple than I thought, because it's the fact that consciousness is simply a principal consciousness. Is for that reason that consciousness doesn't experience anything, because it's like electricity in the computer. It's simply that. It's simply something that infuses the experiencer, the mind, the body mind. Is that correct? Maybe I don't have a word to to explain, but
no, absolutely. As you began speaking, I was about to bring up the analogy of electricity. Electricity can be converted into light, into heat, into cold, into movement. You know, so electricity is the same, but depending on the medium, it's going to be converted in something else. So electricity by itself, it's invisible, it cannot be perceived, okay, and does not do anything, but it is a principle that makes things happen. when in contact with a certain medium, it produces something. I heard in the past that people yet do not know what electricity is. They know that it produces certain effects when running through certain mediums. So consciousness is this principle, okay, that once in contact with certain mediums, and the mediums are jivas, it produces life. It produces sentient beings, sentient creatures that perceive their environment and respond to the impulse coming from that. You understand? So we need electricity, we need consciousness. Now, is electricity a really cooling thing? Is it a cooling? Is cooling the real nature of electricity? No.
No.
Is heating the real nature of electricity?
No.
No. So is movement, moving air, the real nature of electricity? No, it's not movement, it's not heating, it's not cold, it's none of this. But yet, when in association with a medium, and the medium is created by Maya, and then electricity appears, such as all those effects. Okay, so what is the principle of consciousness? Is knowledge, existence, and limitlessness.
Limitlessness.
And, which is the nature of the nature. It's the nature. It does not have any property. It does not cause actions. It does not cause thinking. It does not cause feeling, okay? And movement, it does not. But yet, in the absence of consciousness, Maya is powerless to bring about this world of agents, of mediums by which this projection is known and this is experienced and is interact with and so on. Okay, so electricity, such as consciousness, has none of those natures, which belong to Maya, Shwara, which bring about all these attributes and qualities, of every constitution out of the three energies and the five elements. Every configuration project created by Maya is going to have functions and qualities. Some of these is going to serve the purpose, of doing certain things, like a fan. A fan is going to move air, So electricity is the same, consciousness is the same. It does not do anything. It's that principle. So the key here is to understand that our nature is that, and this is the end of this game of searching. And my nature, my true identity is that, okay. And I don't do anything, okay. And I'm not an experiencing entity. I don't experience anything except when I am in association with my mediums. Mr. Jivas, when I'm in association with the Jivas, I, consciousness, have a human experience, okay? When I'm in association with the plants, I, consciousness, have a plant experience, okay? So now the Jiva has the intellectual power to understand, the source of all this magic show, the fundamental nature of everything, which is electricity in analogy, but it is consciousness, you understand? Which, as in association with whenever Maya, let's be careful with words here, whenever Maya comes into operation and it projects this universe of infinite numbers of configurations of names, colors, and form, when it brings all of that, immediately this consciousness can have an experience through its agents. And the agents are jivas, the mediums are jivas, okay? So the key here is for the human jiva, the only one equipped with this intellectual ability to understand its fundamental, free, independent, actionless nature as consciousness, okay? So what is the big deal? Why it's so important to understand one's true nature? Why it's so important to understand this fundamental, actionless, thinkingless, nature as consciousness. Consciousness does not act, does not think, does not feel. You understand? It is the principle. It sounds like boring, but the agent, being the only one, the human agent, the only one capable to understand its nature, has a huge gains, a huge benefit by understand its fundamental nature. And why so, Claudio? Did you understand why it's so important for us to understand our actionless nature?
Because I don't get associated with the objects. I don't attach too much to the object. I can recognize always that when I see an object, it seems real to me, but then I recognize that I'm not the object. The object has some qualities, and before I used to get attached to these qualities. Oh, I have this thought, so I am bad, or I am wrong. And now that I recognize that I am this like energy, that goes into my body and to my mind. It's like I'm not that. I'm the principle that I don't know how the words, but it's like I discriminate. It's more easy to discriminate. So it's cool. It's good.
To carry out the analogy a little bit farther, I'm thinking to carry out the analogy a bit farther is that I'm not the toaster. And,
you're not the toaster.
And I always try but what I want to do is I want to be a new and improved toaster. So I keep thinking, like, how can I get to be a better toaster? How can I do better? How can I do better? How can I do better? And yet what this is really saying is that, don't identify as the toaster. And your consciousness, you can't be better. You are already your true nature, and your true nature is not to be a toaster. And that may be your dharma. I'm kind of thinking that that's your dharma, to be a toaster.
Yeah,
but it's
that's good.
It's not your true nature.
Yeah, it's your, if the dharma is to be a toaster, so we better be a good toaster,
Yeah.
So be the best toaster we could be. That's true, but it's not our true nature. And as Claudio was saying, it's like, let's not get attached to being a toaster.
Yeah. So let's not, you were saying as well, Claudio, that now you see yourself more objectively. You see your jiva as an object. So you are not as identified with the body-mind as the body-mind. You see your body-mind as an object. So this is the most final discrimination, because we begin discriminating ourselves from other things that somehow ties us in samsara. How we get tied, and bound to samsara, because we have likes and dislikes, and we get attached to them, and we all the time we are having trouble with life because we want the objects we want, and we want to avoid certain others. We all the time fighting with life, and we suffer. But you are taking this discrimination to a subtler level, which is I'm discriminating myself from this first, most primordial, object called this jiva, the jiva that's all the time, following me around. So how are we going to benefit by disconnecting or by discriminating? I am not this jiva, and it's exactly what you have said. The jiva change, and I do not change. The jiva is designed to do, and I can be as lazy as I want because I don't do anything. So the jiva is designed to think and to respond. And so I leave everything which belongs to the jiva, I leave to jiva Ishwara, understanding Ishwara as well, in the way Ishwara is somehow governing all jivas, you understand? So I leave what belongs to Mithya, and I enjoy the fruits of this knowledge, which is I don't change with experience. There is no object, of experience that changes the intellect, the mind, the feelings, the body, all change because all belongs to me. And death is the ultimate change. The death, the mind, as we know, does not change. So the jiva does not die. The jiva does not die, but the body dies with time. And that is, again, a big change. It's nothing but change. We're going to change our costumes, you understand? So once we understand that the body changes and the body ages and the body goes, the most traumatizing, problem or truth about Nietzsche is that everything come, grow, everything come, grow, and die. So that does not apply anymore to the individual once he has established and claimed his true nature as consciousness, that which was never born, will never die, and does not change with the changing world, with the changing nature. My mind will change, the body will change, circumstances are going to be going south all the time, but I don't change. This is the only understanding that brings about this deep relaxation within the intellect of the human jiva, which allows him to be a better enjoyer of creation and be grateful to the creation, and interact with this Dharma field in a creative and positive and generous and giving and adding value way, you understand? So all of that, is possible when this fundamental fear of change, and that is the ultimate change, is resolved by understand my changeless nature, my my beginningless and deathless nature, my eternal nature. So it's a shift of identity that it seems, for most people, how I'm going to be benefit if I'm going to shift into something who does not experience anything, something that does not do anything, something that does not feel the world. How I'm going to benefit? I'm going to benefit because I, the jiva, is going to experience the world in a better way, to feel the world in a better way, understand the world in a better way. The benefit is for the jiva, understanding its true nature, that which does not do, does not feel, does not think. You understand? So that understanding in respect to my real nature, brings about this huge benefit to the jiva alone, because consciousness, understand, has no problem with knowledge and ignorance. It was never bound, it will never be free. It never done anything, it's just existence. You understand? So it's important that we understand, and I'm happy to see that you're making such a good progress, you understand? Because we the agent, we the medium, we want to have a better time here until our karma gets exhausted, gets finished. We want to be an enjoyer here, right?
Good.
Arlindo, there was a statement, and I don't remember which book, that kind of confused me, but it's along the same line. Objects are in consciousness, but consciousness is not in objects. So sometimes I feel like when you look out and you see this beautiful sunset with a snow-capped Mount Sopris in the foreground, it feels like consciousness is within that object, but you know what I mean, is this incredible, limitless beauty, but I guess is that still all reflected consciousness in that object of
it's all reflected. You got it. Everything is a reflection of consciousness in this macrocosmic apparatus, this medium, the macrocosm mirror of the universe called Maya. So when consciousness reflects, and then we have all these beautiful names and forms, you know, and some of them are magnificent, you know, and then we enjoy it. Yes, it's reflected consciousness, it's an apparent reality. You got it. You understand? So consciousness is not real in it, in the sense that consciousness is the cause. That effect depends on the cause. And the cause is the only reality, because this effect depends on another factor called Maya as well. So everything that comes out of Maya is a magic show. It's an appearance. It's like a mirage. You understand? So all of that is possible due to consciousness existence in its limitless nature that shines in this macrocosmic reflector called Maya to produce the universe, produce Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. Okay, or everything comes, it's due to consciousness once Maya reflects consciousness. Okay, so in which way everything is within consciousness? Because Maya cannot project that without a substratum. Okay, consciousness is the substratum, existence is the substratum. Okay, and then we see this substratum, Maya projects. Or looking from another analogy, we have the screen, okay, in the cinema hall. And then without the screen, the projector will not reflect those pictures, those moving pictures, you understand? So we need, so in which way all these projections in the screen of the cinema hall, in which way they are real? So we know that we experience them, but they are not really real. Okay, and then we can say that all these beautiful pictures, moving pictures, they are nothing but the screen, right? Because everything is happening within the screen of the cinema. You understand? So there is nothing that happens which is not within consciousness. Okay? It's everything is happening within consciousness. And we have this reflect consciousness that allows us to understand that everything is happening within my mind, and my mind exists not apart from consciousness. You understand? We are the agents, we are the mediums by which consciousness can have this media experience. So everything is happening within the scope of consciousness. Okay, everything is consciousness, but consciousness is not really within any of that, because consciousness is real. And all of these names and forms, they are just reflections, as you said. They are just apparent reality, you know, it's just a reflection of consciousness to produce all these different names and forms. You understand? So we have the rainbow in the sky, we have the mirage on the desert, on the asphalt. So we have all these analogies that helps us to understand that there are certain things we experience which is not really real. We have the film, the movie, with all these events and actions happening on the screen of the cinema, you understand? And we experience, but they are not really real, okay? Everything likewise is happening within consciousness, okay? But consciousness is not coming out of any of that. So the confusion that needs correction, needs clarification, is that the general impression that people have as the consciousness comes out of matter. Consciousness comes out of the brain. Consciousness, you know, it's impossible that, you know, consciousness is not coming out of Karen, of the body of Karen, because I see her moving and thinking and doing things, you know. It's impossible that Karen, that consciousness is not a personal thing belonging to Karen, you understand? No, Karen is happening within consciousness. Okay? Karen is a byproduct of consciousness, because consciousness being the substratum, and then Maya projects Karen, and Karen comes into this apparent existence as a jiva. You understand? So the general confusion is that consciousness is in the world And then Vedanta comes and says, consciousness is not within the world. The world is within consciousness. You understand? Because consciousness existence is the only reality. And then from time to time, Maya goes and poof, projects the universe. How about that? It projects the universe. So this universe is within consciousness. It's not the other way around, that consciousness comes off the world. You understand? So this statement that we see in several books, Vedanta books and scriptures, it says that, and in the Gita it says, I am, all of this is within me, but I'm not in none of those things, you understand? Meaning to say, these are just an apparent reality. They are not really real. I'm the only reality. Consciousness is the only reality. And these things are superimposition within myself. They are happening in me. I'm not really happening in that. They happen in me. But the confusion is also because we know that without consciousness, all these configurations of name, colors, and forms are not possible. Consciousness is going to infuse, consciousness is going to infuse Maya, and Maya is going to infuse all these objects, with reflected consciousness. This reflect consciousness is going to give life to everything. You understand? And we have the prananas, we have all these energies that are going to move, intelligent move all these mediums, all these jivas. Huh? I don't know if that helped, Karen. We can talk a little bit more.
Yes, that does help. And I think it helps to change the words around, the world, like using the world. The world is in consciousness, but consciousness is not in the world, or that sunset or that beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. The world is within consciousness. Consciousness is not within the world. And yet the world does not appear without consciousness, because you need the substratum, you need the background, you understand, in which the world is projected by Maya. How can we have things in this universe without space? So can we say that the space is in every object, or the objects are within space? You understand? So ultimately it's both, because space, everything happens within space. And furthermore, the space is the substratum of nature. It pervades all objects. You understand? Space is a very, very nice thing, to contemplate upon. It appears that the space is existing, living from within the object. But no, the space is all pervasive. The nature of space is total pervasiveness in nature. You understand? And it appears, it's coming out of the object. Now, objects are coming out of space. Space is accommodating everything. Space is the most fundamental, the primordial element of creation. Out of the space, the other elements unfold, right? And all of these elements take some of space with it, even Earth, even the element Earth. So you can do some more contemplation and get back to us again to see where you are, if you have put this doubt to rest, as Ramji sometimes says.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, we're going back to the analogy of electricity, but like consciousness is the power behind the sunset. So the sunset wouldn't be there without consciousness. So it existed before the sunrise and will exist after the sunrise. So it's the power that illuminates the sunrise or sunset on Mount Sopris.
Yeah. It's the power behind everything. It's the eye behind the eyes, the ear behind the ears, you know, and so on. It's the principle behind Sattva, the intelligence of the universe. Ishvara, you know, is that which infuse Ishvara, you know, with knowledge. So it's the knowledge behind the knowledge, you know. And so we go.
I kind of, it's difficult to wrap an intellect around this concept of existence without substance. Kind of blows my mind, and that I still haven't come to it. You know, it's just too fine. It's not a substance. How can it not be a substance if it's existence and everything I see is a substance? You know, it just, it's tricky. I can't get it really. I keep trying, but it's difficult for me.
Well, it's difficult for as long as we want to understand it objectively. You understand? It becomes easy when we look at it subjectively. What do you mean to say? What I mean to say is that consciousness is not a substance. It has no attribute. It does not do anything. It does not change. And once we start looking at it subjectively, we will see that it is our very consciousness, the absolute subject. You understand? This consciousness is the light illuminator, is the light of consciousness. So why light, why our physical light is such an important analogy, Vedantic analogy? Because consciousness has the similar, likewise, it has the power to illumine and reveal the world, okay? Consciousness is the light, it's not physical light, it's the light by which the world is revealed, illumined, and known, okay? Oh, no, it's the mind, yeah, but the mind needs consciousness, and the mind enjoys reflected consciousness, as we know. Okay, so the original consciousness is the light, the absolute light by which things, the universe is illumined, revealed, and known. So in every one of our experience, in every one of our contemplations, we need to remember that consciousness is the most simple thing, is the subject, is the knower, but the real knower, not the intellect, not the mind. It's the real experiencer, you know, in association with its mediums, you know. So it's the real perceiver. So it's always present as something which has no attributes. And why it does not have attributes? Because it does not change. You understand? If something has attributes and then it cannot really capture phenomena without change. So you need to be a changeless principle to capture changing phenomena without changing. So we have this consciousness existence within every one of our experience. It permeates every one of our experience, Lynn. You understand? It's just a question of putting to test and observe it. I mean, I like to present Vedanta within certain experimental or experiential aspects to it, because otherwise we may believe that it's just a theory. No, I mean, we can sense it, we can feel it, we can analyze it in the light of the teachings, and we can observe it, that there is something about my mind that does not change. My feelings, my thoughts change, but there is something about my intellect that does not change. Although intellectually speaking, my notions change over the years and the decades, my beliefs, my knowledge. But there is something within my intellect that does not change. You know, it's the knowing, the knowingness, the knowing power to know. So this changeless principle, which is changeless because it's free of any kind of qualities and attributes, you know, this principle is present in every one of our experience, and it can only be realized as the nature of the knower, the subject, the absolute subject, conscious witness, non-experiencing principle. It's not an experiencing entity. It's not an experiencing agent. You understand? And the problem is, Linda, we try to know it objectively because we want to feel it. We want to know it objectively. We want to understand it in duality. I, the seeker, and this consciousness. No, you can only know it by understanding, oh my God, this is my true nature. This is the nature of everyone. You understand? I can only know that as my own self.
Yeah, because now you said it's that unchanging background. And you can sense that as a jiva, but then that's reflected consciousness. That is
it is a reflected consciousness, but you can sense it. You can experience, because when we contemplate on this knowledge, our mind becomes more and more clear and reflective and sattvic, and then we can sense the nature of the changeless nature of consciousness in this very, very sattvic reflection in my very contemplative intellect. You understand?
And so the only way to jump from reflected consciousness to the absolute awareness, existence, Ananta, is intellectually, just when you have that firm understanding.
Absolutely.
And so the two will always go together. The two, you'll always, yeah.
You will never going to experience consciousness except as an epiphany. But epiphany is something very abstract and subject to different kind of powers.
Not dependable.
So and you cannot realize. So this has to be. There has to be understood. It's made of knowledge, and only knowledge is understanding. You know. You need to understand that I am that which does not change, and I cannot experience that which does not change, because that is the experiencer. It's not an object that can be experienced, but it is the nature of the experiencer, the nature of the knower. It will never be known objectively because it's the true nature. My true nature is a knower. My true nature is an experiencer. You understand? And it's all the time present. You understand? Illumined, revealing, and knowing through the agent, the knowing agent called the jiva, the experienced knowing agent called the jiva. So you can only know it subjectively. And subjectively is not like through my mental, no, through my absolute subjectivity as consciousness, as pure limitless consciousness, actionless consciousness. You understand?
Yeah, that
need to know.
Yeah, that knowingness that's
really
why firm.
Yeah,
it's a different.
That's why it's all the. Yeah, that's why all this discrimination between consciousness and the intellect, you know, and consciousness and those mental states of Anandamaya Kosh. So we all the time we are stretching. It's this discrimination becomes subtle and subtle and subtle until we understand very clearly, you know, the difference between pure, limitless, actionless consciousness from everything that comes as a byproduct of Maya. You understand, on the 5 koshas level. It's all about knowledge. It is all about knowledge. What we can know experientially are the benefits of knowledge. The benefits of self-knowledge we can experience and enjoy. They are called the benefits of self-knowledge. You understand? But the self can only be known subjectively as one's true nature, never objectively. If we try to know it objectively, we are making the same mistake as everybody does in the world of yoga, which is try to know the self in dualistically, you understand? In duality. Very nice question. Good satsang today, huh, Elizabeth?
Yes.
And we are very happy that you are not having many naps today.
I'm so pleased you're happy with me. I shall do my best to be here mentally. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. No. Yeah.
So it's a knowingness free of knowledge. Is that what you're kind of talking about? A knowingness that's doesn't depend upon knowledge. It's just subjectively held.
Now you're making my life a little bit more difficult.
Oops.
It's a knowingness. It's a knowingness that does not depend on knowledge. So let's see if I understand what you're trying to do.
Maybe get to a spot where the knowledge is not important, the knowingness is there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is a knowledge, Aline, but it's not a dualistic knowledge. It's not a knowledge as we know things, all these phenomenal objects. It's the ultimate knowledge. It's the knowledge that puts an end to all this seeking and searching for more knowledge as I mean to complete myself. So it's a knowledge in respect to one's true nature, you understand? It is a knowledge. But just imagine a knowledge which exists in non-duality. It's not a dualistic knowledge. You understand? What kind of knowledge is that? It's the knowledge about my very nature. And how are you going to know that if there are no duality, the knower and the known object? How are you going to know that? You understand? You know that with the help of the scriptures. You understand? The pramana. Through that means of knowledge, you're going to get clear about knowing your true nature, which is not something dualistic to go about. Understand? It is a knowledge. It's not a knowledge about a mental state. That's why we go about rejecting even the Vijnana Maya Kosha and the how you say? Vijnana and the causal body.
Oh,
Ananda
Maya Kosha. And Ananda Maya Kosha. We go to the extent to reject those levels of human experience with which we identify, you know. So we want to reject everything, discriminating myself from everything, until this knowledge about my very nature is not a knowledge in respect to some qualities inherent to my jiva nature. I want to know the nature, my absolute nature, not these qualities or the attributes of this body-mind complex on its different levels, you know, like Ananda Maya Kosha, Vijnana Maya Kosha, Mano Maya Kosha, and Prana Maya Kosha, and the body kosha. Okay, so we go about discriminating from the denser to the subtle, until we have a knowledge of my true nature, which is none of these experiences things. I want to have a knowledge. That's the problem, Lynn. And that's why a lot of people get stuck, you know, knowing the Anandamaya quotient and define oneself as those states and believing that this is what I am. I am this bliss, I am this expansion, I am this unconditional love. You understand? So no, we want to have the knowledge which is not, dualistic, dual. I mean, I, the knower, the experience, and an object of experience. No, I want to have the knowledge of the nature of the knower. That's when duality collapses. I have to know my true nature. You understand? And that is a very simple knowledge. And I tend to try to bring about some experiential elements to it. Okay? Because I know that everyone wants to know the self, but wants to feel it, wants to taste it, wants to, to know it objectively a little bit, But no, you can only know it as your very nature, but you can sense it as the reflection of your nature's consciousness in your intellect, and intellect which is properly educated by the scriptures, which is contemplative, it's refined, it's subtle, it's sattvic, and then we can sense more clearly this conscious existence shines through the intellect and unchangeably. Not changing. The intellect's going to change. So we cannot know it in duality. We can only know it when duality collapses. You understand? And that's why it's, you said, but it's so difficult. It's difficult. No, it's not difficult. It's impossible to know it in duality. You understand? It is impossible. It's the nature of the one trying to know it, through the sense, through the minds, dualistically. It's the very nature of the seeker.
It seems to me like it's sort of trying to describe what surrender is, to surrender to those ideas rather than...
Yeah, no, I mean, surrender is not a good idea, although it has its spiritual value if it's properly understood. But if people in the spiritual world often talks about surrendering, and they end up mostly surrendering to their own ignorance, So no, we don't want to surrender to life as it is. I mean, human beings are just sentient objects moved by vasanas, and the vasanas are mostly ignorant vasanas. So we don't want to just flow with the Ishvara, because Ishvara is going to keep us, bound to samsara for as long as we are just flowing with it, surrendering to it. We know we need to put up a fight. And by Ishvara here, I mean, avidya, this beginningless phenomenon that push jivas around, through this cycle of macrocosmic ignorant vasanas that keep us tied, bound to running samsara, life after life. We don't want to just flow with that. We want to, to bring about our sword and follow Dharma, develop certain qualities, and then get to the Upanishads, and then we educate ourselves to the extent that we can get this knowledge clear about my true nature. You understand? Surrendering is a good word when the jiva is under the impression that he knows better, or that he has control over the results, has control over one's destiny. And then in that sense, surrender could be used as a good word to say, no, surrender to the Lord, surrender to the Ishvara, because it's better, because he is the Lord, he is the controller. You have to put up good action. So in that sense, surrender can be used. You understand? Letting go, accepting our prarabdha karmas.
That's the sense I'm looking at it in, because having patience, because sometimes I don't understand in my ego mind, and I get frustrated, like, oh, I'm not getting this. But then when I can feel that sense of, okay, I'll surrender and be patient, that with taking the steps, I will figure this out. With Ishvara guiding me. it's
So
okay.
what did you not understand today, Karen?
Oh, well, I'm just speaking the, concepts that we've been talking about. I do understand what we've been talking about today. I'm just talking about over the time when I haven't understood, I get too wrapped up in trying to literally figure everything out instead of surrendering to the fact that Ishwara will help me figure it out as I come along in my discrimination.
Very nice. Well put. So I hear you saying that you understand, and I'm not surprised you say you understand, otherwise you wouldn't be with us. You understand all of these teachings. There is a gap between understanding these teachings intellectually and converting this intellectual knowledge into actual knowledge, in the sense that our life is transformed. Our emotional personality is transformed, as Swami Paramarthananda likes to put. So there is a difference in the language. Ramji is self-knowledge and self-actualization. So to the extent that this knowledge fructifies and our lives are transformed, it requires more effort. You understand? So you understand it, and you surrender to the fact that we are still being challenged by a lot of old vasanas that somehow are going to abstract the full appreciation and experience of my inner nature as freedom. So that I can hear, that I understand, we need to accept our limitations, surrender, trust Ishvara, and keep doing our work, our good work, without complaining, without blaming Ishvara. It's our life, it's our vasana load. We know how to gradually transform all of that. And that is very much well said, Karen.
Arlindo,
Yes, my dear.
I have to leave now because I'm going to have to go to a place where my license is going to be renewed. And I'm quite nervous because of my age. They're going to be not very easy. So perhaps everybody can have a little prayer.
Yes, good luck. Good luck
Thank you
with that, my dear.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. So what a nice satsang today, huh? Very dense, huh?
I'm just looking ahead to see whether, like I thought we did a great job before in the study of the koshas and understanding the koshas. And I don't know if that's part of the big picture again to get a review of the koshas, but that strikes me as a really good way to understand duality and to eventually remove duality and only be left with non-duality. So I'm not sure if that's part of this discussion, though.
I'm not sure I understood your point, David. If you want to elaborate it differently, or if somebody else can help me to understand.
Well, I heard Dave asking, because I had made a note that I need to review the koshas. Anandamaya kosha, Yanamaya kosha. So yeah, is that what you're saying, Dave? Reviewing the koshas?
Yeah. I just I think what we're talking about is, that's the practical application was really done, in the discussion of the koshas. And so to go back and review that again, or if it's part of the big picture and we're going to do that, then we can rely upon that. Ruth, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that the koshas provide a way of objectifying the body in a clear understanding, that it's an object. So
Yeah.
It's coming up in the 10th section of this book.
Is it? Okay.
Good.
Oh, the 5 C's. Okay. Yep. All right. So we'll be doing that again too. So that's good. That's good, I think. So
Yeah, I mean the koshas. Just to make a quick summary about these kosher teachings, we have the discrimination between consciousness and the 3 bodies, right? So when we go through Tattva body, etc., we begin discriminating from the 3 bodies, and then we go into other aspects of the teachings. So the discrimination between consciousness and the 5 koshas is similar to the discrimination of consciousness and the 3 bodies. Understand? It's just the 3 bodies divide differently. Okay, the food body, and then the prana body, and then the mental, emotional body, and then the intellectual body, and then the causal body. So it's just a different format, a different way to discriminate consciousness from these 5 levels of human experience by which the jiva gets bound to experience. We get bound to experience. We get bound as the experience agent, and we get bound to the object of experience. You understand? So we get bound to samsara through these 5, let's say 5 levels of human experience: our physicality, our energy, our emotions, our thoughts, our intellectual knowledge, and then our beautiful states, our meditative and all those Anandamaya quotients. They are very easily deceiving the seeker of moksha, because it feels so good that one tends to believe, okay, this is the self now. I'm having a great time in here. I'm having Anandamaya kosha in the waking state. You understand? And this is great when I sit to meditate. So this is, again, it's another trick. It's another illusion. So we get identified with the world through these different levels of experience. We, the experience agent, we get tied, we get bound to all these objects of experience, and we somehow we draw some sense of egoic identity through all these different levels of human experience. You understand? And we want to separate consciousness from all these levels of physical and etc. Yes, Ruth, please.
in a way, as the levels become more and more subtle, they also become more attractive. They also become more, they have a greater ability to enmesh, the jiva in its thrall, I guess I would say. So like when you speak of the mind, it's quite easy for people who are intellectual to get stuck in that space, and not realize what it is actually, or the ego. Again, it's the subtlety, So I think that relates to what you were saying, Lynn.
Yeah, they're all upadis, right? So the more tightly held the upadi, the more difficult to discriminate. That's tough. It's a job.
Yeah, Ruth is saying that intellectual types, they may be more easily inclined to get stuck or identified with the Jnanamaya kosha. And some other people, they are going to be identified with the emotions and the thoughts, the Manamaya kosha. And some other people with those states of deep meditation, Anandamaya kosha. So it depends on the type. We may may get more easily, bound to those different levels of duality, by which we end up getting a definition of ourselves as our experience, It's a very simple work, but it's subtle, and the subtlety of this work, it makes it appear as if it is difficult, but it's easy for us to understand it intellectually. And then this understanding has to be deep enough so that it cancels or minimizes the power of these vasanas carrying old vasanas that are rooted in this cosmic ignorance of Vidya. This knowledge, this clarity, this conviction has to have a power to affect, these ignorant vasanas, and to minimize their pressure, so that we are not all the time being challenged by this avidya. You understand? So it's a knowledge. It happens in the intellectual, and this knowledge has to be really not knowledge about Vedanta, but knowledge about myself as consciousness. There's no longer a duality. Okay, it's now I understood, and then this knowledge has to be hard and fast and firm, so that it can neutralize, remove, or cancel a lot of those vasanas that were based on the fundamental ignorance, that I am this body-mind construct, and the other objects are real, and they serve the purpose to make me okay, stable, happy, and content, and full and complete. Yes, Ruth? Neti, yeah. Yeah. So if we go about netting, so what's going to be left? The nature of the knower, the discriminator, the one doing the netting. I mean, if there is not, how can we remove everything without removing? How can we remove everything and remove ourselves in the same process? It's impossible, because I need to be there in order to reject everything, right? So once we understood that everything is just an object, it's a projection, and then I'm left, as the only reality, the nature of the inquirer, consciousness. Because in the end, consciousness, in this process, I find this a very, very beautiful conversation, because who does this discrimination, Roots? It's the intellect that is refining itself, purifying itself, become more and more clear, and in the light of these teachings, begins doing this discriminate, and this intellect has to come to a point that it rejects even its nature as a pure reflector, its nature as clarity, as a good intellect. It has to reject itself in the end in order to truly claim its true nature as consciousness, you understand? It's almost as if the intellect in the end, it jumps as well, it says, okay, I'm jumping into the true nature of Brahman, you understand?
I don't get the concept of neti that Ruth was sharing.
Not this, not that, not this, not that. Because it goes back to your idea of surrender, what Arlindo is saying. You see everything as Nitya. Yeah, you understand it.
Very good. Nice. I'm very, very glad we met today. Ishwara has held this internet signal, and it was a beautiful meeting today. I want to take the chance to thank you for your donations. Your support has been very important. I know that some of you may not be able to do so, and that is totally okay as well. But for those of you who can still help me, it has been very important, you know, the support as well. Okay, much love to you all, and we meet again this Monday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you all, my dear friends. We meet again soon, Ishwara willing. And Claudio, I need you to, I think you are the one doing the recording. And then we're gonna need to figure out now the YouTube thing so that you can upload in YouTube, unless you send to me somehow and then I upload it.
Yes,
Okay?
I can also send you, but if you allow me in the section where I explained you the last time, you have to go in links and then see that you can. I have the video that I send you. I can send you it again, maybe.
Stop the recording, and then we can talk a little bit more.
Yeah.